Hello, I'm Will the Gamer, and today I want to talk about the Demi-Humans. Demi-Humans have a lot of different heights and weights depending on what species they merge with. What species you play in the game is dependent on what class you pick. A Demi-Human warrior is fused with a bear, making them much larger and taller. A Demi-Human archer has the form of a jaguar and has an average human body size. A Demi-Human druid will take the form of a wolf and will have an average human body size. A Demi-Human thief will have the form of a raccoon and will have a smaller body size. A Demi-Human enchanter will have the form of a cat and will have a slightly smaller body size. A Demi-Human monk will take the form of a tiger and have a slightly larger body size. A Demi-Human mage will take the form of a fox and be slightly smaller than average. A Demi-Human duelist will take the form of a rabbit and be slightly smaller than the others. And finally, a Demi-Human warlock will take the form of a rat and be slightly smaller than the others. Now, each Demi-Human has two forms, their human and then their animal form. In their human form, they'll only share certain characteristics with their animal form. This usually includes ears, tails, strips of fur, and body structure. Generally speaking, they will always have the same ears as their animal form. If their animal form has a pronounced tail, they will also have one of those. Their body will also be outlined with the type of fur they have in their animal form. The fur will run in strips on the outside of the arms, legs, upon the back, and up the neck. Their body structure and size are also heavily influenced by the animal form. If they are a larger animal, they will be physically larger in their human form. If they are a smaller animal, they will be physically smaller in their human form. They also all have the ability to transform into their animal form. This can take a few seconds to complete, but will generally give them different effects. This can include movement speed, an added ability, more sneak ability, depends on the class. In their human form, they will also share the same type of eyes as their animal form. This can make some Demi-Humans very off-putting. Now on to the basic history of the Demi-Humans. Historians of the game are not sure when Demi-Humans first started to appear, but they are sure for a fact that they are the youngest of the new races, only having been first noted within the age of the orcs. And since nobody knows the true origins of the Demi-Humans, many myths and legends have come about surrounding them. These legends include, but are not limited to, sex with animals, demon magic, soul-binding magic, and other various combinations of the three. Needless to say, all three of these things are strictly forbidden in the Empire. Thus, Demi-Humans have been outcast wherever they went. They were often captured as slaves and forced into sex slavery. Many of them were forced into small cages with their fellow Demi-Humans and forced to breed in order to make new slaves. The conditions in these pens were similar to that of the lowest animals in society, and often they were seen as less than animals as other animals were given preferential treatment over them. Many Demi-Humans starved to death or were beaten to death. If they weren't, they had their fur flayed from their skin or were raped to death. The conditions were so bad that many Demi-Humans killed themselves before they got into slavery, knowing full well the horrors of Empire slavery. However, some nobles who owned Demi-Human slaves did not share the cruel attitude as others. They treated them like humans and even sometimes as lovers, and would often fight for their rights. However, these fights went on deaf ears, and so other measures had to be taken. These Empire nobles would eventually support the Demi-Humans and help them build an underground railroad, sort to speak. They would allow their Demi-Human servants to slip out during the night and free other Demi-Humans. They were usually freed from the pens and horrible conditions that other slave masters kept them in, and then the noble would offer them safe housing within their mansion. When enough of the Demi-Humans had been gathered, the noble would usually pay a villain or another pirate or smuggler to get them across the Middle Sea to the other continent. There they would rejoin with the other Demi-Humans. These efforts would continue for quite a while until they began cracking down on the noblemen helping Demi-Humans. Afraid to lose their lives, many of the nobles stopped helping Demi-Humans. Thus, drastic action had to be taken or else all would be lost. And with that, a Demi-Human decided to steal a certain magical item. This particular magical item acted like a camera and could take photographs. This particular Demi-Human would go down in legend as a hero. She took pictures of all the horrifying pens the Demi-Human slaves were kept in. Then she took pictures of all the skins they had cut off of them. She took these pictures to a well-known villain captain who had been capturing Demi-Humans for many years. This particular villain captain had no idea how horrifying the conditions were for the Demi-Human slaves. However, once she saw the magical photographs that had been taken, she immediately understood how horrible the thing she had done was. She agreed to help and gathered her smuggler fleet of 20 ships in order to save them. 2 weeks later, they planned for a mass breakout, and it was almost completely successful. Over 70% of the Demi-Human slaves escaped that night. While there were still Demi-Human slaves in the Empire, the Villis would no longer smuggle new Demi-Humans off the other continent. Thus, the Demi-Human slave population began to greatly decline. The Demi-Human woman who had delivered the photographs to the Villis was burned at the stake with her human lover. She had refused to leave his side after all he had done to help the Demi-Humans. Now then, that basically covers the majority of Demi-Human history up until the point of the rebellion. So now let's talk about Demi-Human society on the Eastern continent. Free Demi-Humans form nomadic tribes within the Eastern continent. Each of these tribes generally consists of one species of Demi-Humans. For instance, one nomadic tribe might be bears, while one might be wolves. These nomadic tribes roam the different provinces depending on their personal preferences. For instance, the tribes of bears and wolves might hunt in the forest, whereas the raccoons and the rats might stay close to cities. These nomadic groups, however, will always fall under the same type of system. They will generally be several families of that species of Demi-Humans grouped together, the tribe itself being led by the elders, the older members of the group teaching the younger members how to survive and use their skills. However, none of these Demi-Human groups were very large and thus never made a real impression on anyone. They mostly acted like gypsies, a minor annoyance when they were around, but nothing to be threatened by. It wasn't until the reorganization of the rebellion under the High Orcs that they really found a purpose. Each of the Demi-Humans was given a specialized role within the rebellion based on their species. This goes from the raccoons being inducted into the Shadow Cult, a specialized group of spies and assassins, to the jaguars being inducted into the Jaegers, a highly elite force of monster hunters. With this, they found purpose within the rebellion's newly forming society, and for the first time in their existences, the Demi-Humans started to feel less afraid. That is all for today on Demi-Humans. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. My name is Will the Gamer, signing out.